This is the Whole Care Network. Helping you tell your story one podcast at a time. Content presented in the following podcast is for information purposes only. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the host and guest and may not represent the views and opinions of the Whole Care Network. Always consult with your physician for any medical advice, and always consult with your attorney for any legal advice. And thank you for listening to the Whole Care Network.
Hi, sweetie. This is Isabel Melgarejo with the Time to Care at Caregivers podcast, and I am your host. Today, I want to talk about self-regulation because when we are caregivers, our brains usually fall into survival mode. This is because we are trying to survive, and everything we relate to life or death threat. So let's get started. A few months ago, I was listening to another podcast about self-regulation, about the importance of self-regulate when we leave very stressful moments in our lives. And I immediately thought about you. Because when we are caregivers, we are usually in survival mode. We are all the time thinking about what can go wrong, and we live through a lot of stress. We need to follow a very tight schedule. We need to make sure that our parents take our medications, that they go to their doctor's appointments, that they are taken care of. It's not just their health, we also need to take care of their home arrangements. So if they are still living by themselves, we need to make sure that they are comfortable, that the house is not falling apart. If they are living somewhere else, well, there is also a component about that we need to check that everything is taken care of, that they are in a good place, that people that are taking care of them, that they're safe. We need to make sure that we pay their bills. So all of these additional things that fall into our lap as responsibility give us a lot of stress. And our brains, they don't know that we will survive if we don't pay a bill. And our brain doesn't know that we will survive if we miss a doctor's appointment. But our brains were wired to be on alert mode all the time when we are under stress, because we were just looking out for lions and making sure that they wouldn't chase us and eat us. So that's why the brain, when it is a lot of stress, we are in survival mode. We just don't want to be eaten by a lion, and we are just surviving. And we don't want to be on survival mode because, first of all, it is very stressful. Second of all, we produce a lot of cortisol, which is not good for us in the long term. So these are some strategies that I use on my regular life to self-regulate. The first one is meditation. There are many ways you can meditate. Maybe you're an expert on meditation. There are apps in which you can go and listen to a meditation. You could also do the 5-step meditation, which is you pay attention to 5 things, then you pay attention to 4 things that you're feeling, then you pay attention to 3 things that you're smelling, then you pay attention to two things that you can hear, and finally one thing that you're tasting. So this sets yourself in the present moment. You can also journal or use music to meditate. You can say meditation is setting your brain to be in the present moment and trying to put away from our head any thoughts. Several years ago, I used to work with, he was not a neurologist, but he was like a brain expert. And he used to say that our brains never rest. Our brains are always working even when we're asleep. So, for example, our digestive system has a break usually when we sleep because we stop eating. And the brain never gets a rest. For example, the heart has sometimes in which is working harder, but also the heart has rest. When we're resting, when we sleep, our hearts also rest, like they settle, they calm down. And during sleep, all of our body rests except our brain. When we sleep, our brains take that time to process all the information that we accumulated when we were awake. So our brains never get to rest. And it is very important that we give our brains some time to rest. And that time happens when we meditate. As I've mentioned before, there are many ways you can do that. Just go out there and research which one fits best for you. I have recently started journaling and I found that that really works for me. And maybe some ways in which you can meditate right now will not work for you in the future. It doesn't matter. We can always change and look for other options, but meditation is very important. Another thing to help you regulate is forcing your forcing yourself to smile. When we're happy, when we're smiling, um, our our stress levels drop. So you can force. Okay, I'm laughing at my own self, but yeah, you can help yourself out of regulate. You can self-regulate by making yourself laugh. You can watch a comedy show. You can listen to a podcast, a funny podcast. You can watch a stand up comedy, anything that would make you laugh. And if you're not in the mood, something that can very easily work for you is to open your arms as if you were about to hug someone, and then raise your head up and watch the sky. If it's a safe moment for you to do that, do it. Open your arms and watch to the sky, and inevitably you will smile. I have no idea why this happens, and I've seen it many times before that if you need to smile, just do that. So go ahead and open your arms and smile to the world out there. And a third technique that usually works very good to self-regulate is to do relaxing activities, self-care. There are many ways of self-care, and for each one of us, self-care is very different. Self-care for some of us is taking care of our health. For some others is a pampering session. For others is taking time off. For others is doing all of the above. You can actually do all of the above, and that would be self-care. When you're doing any of those activities, you need to be aware of what you're doing. I recently went on vacation for Christmas break, and I got to not think about absolutely anything for a week, and that was so self-regulated. I could I actually was able to make all my worries go away because I was not worried anymore. I was not thinking about what I needed to do, what my goals were, my accomplishments, what I was falling behind. I was not thinking about my 300 item to-do list. I was just enjoying the moment. So that is self-care. That's a moment in which you stop thinking about all your to-do list items and you pay attention to just enjoying the moment. I have a podcast about mindfulness. It is about living in the moment, enjoying absolutely everything that we're doing in that moment, and just enjoying the present. So I will put that in the show notes if you want to refer to that podcast. I think it is a great show to implement mindfulness in our lives and remember that we don't need to live either in the past or in the future and worry about things that happen or will happen or could happen. We don't know about the future, so there's really no point in worrying about what things are going to happen because there's no certainty that they will. Anyways, this is a great way of just living in the moment, and self-care is a great way of just living in the present moment, being mindful about what you're doing. And you can implement mindfulness in many aspects of your life, and all of those aspects are related to self-care. It's about paying attention to what you really enjoy, and self-care is about enjoying things in life. And remember that our bodies are wired to receive pleasure. Things that brings us pleasure we like. And this is also from the cavern ages, because things that would bring us pleasure were good for us. So if we were to eat a fruit and that fruit was tasty and was good for us and would settle well with our stomachs, then we knew that we could eat that fruit. If it would make us sick, then we would remember not to eat that fruit anymore because it was not good for ourselves. So that's why it is so important to give our bodies a lot of pleasure. And I'm not talking about general pleasure. Pleasure can be a massage, pleasure can be watching a sunrise, pleasure can be something that you feel, something that you do, anything that has to do with any of our senses, that is pleasure. So whatever it is that you feel pleasure, you can feel it, you can see it, you can smell it. Turning on a candle, that brings a lot of pleasure. If you want to up your shower time, turn on a candle and pay attention to the smells. That's going to be very pleasurable. The shower itself is very pleasurable. Try to pay attention to those things that bring you pleasure and make you feel happy and joyful and just at ease, and start doing them. That's your homework for the week. Give yourself time to meditate in whatever way you find it comfortable for you. Open your arms and watch the sky and smile. It's just smiling and laughing. Call a friend that will make you laugh all the time. And finally, give yourself pleasure in whatever way you consider is the best way to do it. Thank you so much for listening to me today. I'm really happy to start this year with you by my side. It is really, really good for me. And I hope it is for you as well. I'm offering a program in which I will guide you to plan the care for your loved one. And if you're interested in knowing what this care is all about, go to my website and get a slot with me to talk more about it. Hope you do that and hope to see you next time. Have a fantastic rest of your day.
This is the Whole Care Network. Helping you tell your story one podcast at a time.